Laurie.
Hi, Laurie.
Hello.
Hello, hello.
Hello.
We were just talking about our Thanksgivings. How was yours?
Overall, it was good. It was good. It was nice. Had some new adventures and it was fun. Yeah. We did the Seattle Underground tour.
It's cool.
Oh,
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah. I said yes to that.
Nice.
Yay.
Yay.
All right, well, let's talk about beliefs. All right, so to kick us off, from what I remember, what I understand, beliefs can be, they're neither true nor false. They can only be enlightening or empowering. No, they can only be limiting and empowering. And that our beliefs are what make up our reality. So, does anybody have any thoughts on that? I guess the more empowering beliefs you hold, the better your reality is, even though there's no such thing as good, better, and best. It's all perfect. So, what makes an empowering belief, you think?
Well, I'd say something that's aligned with your inner being, something that lines up with the higher knowing, I guess, because they said we really don't know anything. So when it lines up or it's aligned with our inner being or our spiritual, I guess inner being is the best way to put it, it's empowering. And when we're not aligned, then it's limiting.
Do you think that it's easier to tell when you're not aligned through the feeling of it, through, how your emotions are supposed to be your guidance points?
I think that's easier, but the problem is that when we come up with beliefs that we think are true and we don't realize how limiting they are. Like we've thought it for so long, we haven't really looked at it. And then all of a sudden it's like, whoa, didn't realize that was so limiting.
Yeah. Yeah, I think most of our beliefs are formed when we're very, very young. So I would say, a lot of the things that you believe about yourself just are simply not true. And you just have to learn to question them. And an empowering belief is in alignment. I think going along with what Laurie's saying, it's in alignment with more love-based emotions. The things you feel good about, your passions, your calmness, all of those things that make you feel good.
Yeah, there's less resistance and less limitation, although still technically an empowering belief is limiting, but it's limiting in a way that we feel positive emotion around it. But I think of Joshua saying you're a magnificent, limitless being of pure positive love and acceptance, limitless. So even empowering beliefs are limited just because they pigeonhole us, like, I'm a wonderful artist. And well, that still is, putting us in a box, but it's a box that feels good. But we can, we also could look at well, I'm also a horrible artist, and that's okay too. And so we're both ends of the stick, but we enjoy the more positive ends of the stick. But when we have those empowering beliefs, then we don't feel resistance. So we're more open to inspiration, more open to going with the flow and allowing things to come in when we're following our, operating within our empowering beliefs versus the limiting ones where you'd have that manifestation event or even just like a mild, negative emotion, where then you stop and go, whoa, okay, what's that? What am I not seeing from the perspective of my inner self? And if we catch it, like you said, you caught that moment, you're like, oh, whoa, okay, I caught it now. Because a lot of times we like Tami, you said, we have those beliefs that we acquired young. We came into these experiences with these sets of circumstances, knowing that I think of the analogy that Christy has used with the hot air balloon, and like we come in knowing we're going to have 20 sandbags tethered to our balloon, and we're going to spend our life cutting, many of them off. And so, and I just lost my train of thought on that. I was in the flow, and so I guess I wasn't supposed to finish that thought. That's okay.
And just get lighter and lighter as you drop the
Yeah,
sandbags.
exactly. So yeah, but I know where I was going. We kind of get used to feeling how heavy the sandbags are, and we don't call them heavy because we're just used to it. But then once we start, cutting them away, it's like, oh wow, I could have felt like this, but we're so used to it that we don't recognize it. But now I think when we're paying more attention and being in alignment more and being open to inspiration more, we like Joshua says, we have more, the negative emotion feels worse just because we are paying more attention to how we feel. And then when we feel really good and really aligned, the opposite feels really bad. Where before we were in the thick of the really bad, and that was just status quo. So
Yeah, that's a really great point. One of the discussions or thoughts that I've always loved playing with when it comes to beliefs is are those beliefs that feel empowering. Like for mine personally, the belief, oh, I am a good mother. Well, what specifically does that mean? And then to watch how that opens me up to then judging other mothers who I do not consider good mothers, how it can become a tricky, slippery slope from that standpoint of saying, oh, I am a good mother. And thinking that is an empowering belief when in fact it can be quite tricky to maneuver if you goes back to the whole identity thing, if that becomes your identity from that standpoint. So it's fascinating for me to look at beliefs from that standpoint, to say, what is the judgment that is linked within that belief in and of itself? So
yeah, I love that, how it's attached to identity, because we're quick to attach ourselves to the empowering beliefs, the empowering positive identities, but we wouldn't want to, I'm a good mother. Oh, yay. Yeah, I'm on board with that. I'm a horrible mother. I don't want to think that about myself. So, but it is identity. It's judgment, then it becomes our identity. So, yeah, I like that point.
It's funny. I'm thinking about, JoAnn, what you said about the sandbags and it feeling they are heavy. The sandbags are heavy. Those limiting beliefs are heavy. Because before it began, Pam and I were saying how this week, especially today, I think we both were feeling a little heavy after Thanksgiving. And I was very curious, and it's a very fun experiment to think about why, which I never would have done before doing this work. And like, why do I feel crummy today? And thinking about, and I'm just thinking now that perhaps coming back on Monday after a week sort of vacation. And the truth is that in a week of vacation with family members and whatnot, there's a lot of limiting beliefs, empowering beliefs. And I would say for me, one of the empowering beliefs is like, I am worthy of rest. I'm worthy of taking time off and relaxing. And then to come back on Monday where the whole world is going back to this limiting belief that I must work, I must make a living. I must strive. You know, it's very capitalist, like dirge of what we have to do to get by in the world. You know, we have to slough off our families and our communities in order to be a working member of society. Like, what a fascinating thing. Like, is being a hard worker an empowering belief, or is a limiting belief? Is it heavy, or does it even does it make you feel light in the world? And it's funny that light, and also like our inner selves are made of light. That's kind of the idea, right? That was a little bit of a rant, but sorry.
I loved
Yeah,
it.
that's
That's a
another
great
one,
point.
Katie. You're right. It's like,
Yeah.
I'm a great employee, I'm a hard worker. All of those sound empowering, but yeah, you're like, wait a minute.
And even the limiting belief that Mondays suck, right? That Mondays are bad, like Mondays are crummy.
Yes.
The Sunday's scary, is all these things. Like
Mm.
it's a society. I never thought about societal limiting beliefs, community limiting beliefs that kind of do drag down the hot air balloon.
So why do you believe you're not a good mother?
I think anyone said
No,
no.
when you were saying you're comparing it to someone else.
No. I was
Yeah,
saying, in the comparison of believing I am a good mother, if I see someone who I don't think is a good mother, which I was just using as an example,
yeah.
I'm using the idea of I'm a good mother as a way to be able to judge the other person.
So, and that's what I was trying to spark at, or get you to react to is I think lately I've just been seeing, and we had Thanksgiving, and to me it was the best time ever because I'm seeing everyone in a different light. I'm seeing everyone as perfect, and when I do that, it doesn't spark anything. Actually, everyone looks different. Everyone's happy, everyone's joyful, loving, and it seems like I'm in alignment with them, but maybe it's just a different reality. It's just you've shifted on that perspective. And it's weird because before, the same group, some of those some of the family members would annoy me, but lately they haven't. So it's just maybe it's just a different perception as to how I see them.
That's amazing, Manny. That's awesome. I think
The
that's where the idea of neutrality really comes into play. Go
yeah,
ahead, Tami.
neutrality. I was going to say probably the most empowering belief is that everything is perfect. Everything and everyone. Now, if you can get there, that's the place of neutrality. I believe you're right, Pamela. The feeling that you don't have to change any conditions outside of you, that everything and everything that shows up is just perfect. So I think
I
that's an
find that
example
so
of
much.
Manny.
Yes, his perfection. Exactly.
Yes,
Yep.
he's seeing the perfection in all, in
but
everyone.
but it's not easy, and I
Well,
do dip down. Yeah, go ahead.
that word, it's not well. Actually, it can be easy. I've been doing a lot of work around the words people use, and I did a session on somebody the other day, and this person used the word hard, difficult, all this. So, like, tune into the beliefs that you're thinking of during each day, because we're thinking 50,000 thoughts and all these, or thousands and thousands of thoughts each day, because your beliefs form, they attract your thoughts. So you're attracting thoughts with your beliefs, and that's what's creating your reality. So if you believe that life is hard, life is difficult, so your language is important too. And not just the language you verbalize, but the language you're thinking. Because
I think
we
it's
really,
I was gonna say, I think it's your language, the way you speak is a reflection of your thoughts.
I do think so
But
too.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it's a really good point,
I mean,
Tami.
I think one of the most limiting beliefs is that life is difficult. Life is hard. That's probably one of the most common phrases that you hear, when in reality, our lives are, pretty easy. And And I love taking off, Katie, and not working. I love that. I'm down
Yeah.
with that. Like work, you know.
But it also work could I remember teaching and trying to telling the kids. I said, why do you feel differently? Why are you so happy on Fridays? They're the same as Wednesday or Monday. What is the difference? You could be just as happy on Monday as you are on Friday. And they're high schoolers. So they're like, but Friday. I was like, it's not any different. Like, you complain about your weekends too. I don't know. It's kind of the same thing.
That's
to
so
be honest.
true. My weekend was so boring. I didn't do anything, but yeah. Yes.
So why is Friday so great? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could come up with all kinds of things why Mondays are great. I mean, maybe the coworkers that you get to see that you wouldn't see on the weekends, the ones that you enjoy seeing, or I don't have to think about what I'm going to do today because it's already mapped out. And oh, I don't have to clean my house because sorry, I'm busy working. I mean, like you come up with all kinds of reasons why it would be fun, or but the same things that we get annoyed about or bored with can be flipped to to see the other side of it. Like, oh gosh, I have to do this. I don't have any choice because these are the meetings I have, or these are the tasks I need to get done. Oh, well, hey, I don't have to worry about, cooking or cleaning or doing whatever because, I'm working this, I kind of like doing this task. This is fun. And so, yeah, just flip it on its end and you have take the limiting belief to the empowering belief. So I do that sometimes if I'm like, okay, this is not fun. All right, well, how can I make it fun? What is fun about it? Because there is something fun about it. So
It's
Well,
an awesome way of putting
your
it.
beliefs change throughout your life. So think about the things you thought of when you were 10 and 20 and 30, and so they're constantly changing. So they're always changing. And so, what beliefs are really powerful and true? And, getting to the place of knowing, like Laurie said, I think that's where you start really listening, tuning in to, more love-based beliefs. Or you can really tune into the fear-based beliefs. I see people that do that. They just love being afraid.
I read in this book it talked about joy bonding versus fear bonding. You're like, you can bond in joy or you can bond in fear. Like, you can be
Yes.
really bonded to
so
people.
true.
Oh, yes. It's great. Whoa.
I love
Yeah.
that friend of mine. Like, I love hanging out with her. You're like, do you? Do you?
Do we?
So let me ask you this then, on that same topic, Katie, does anyone have a good way? And Manny, I'm not going to ask you this because you're perfect and you already see everybody perfect. But
It's
when
a
you
limiting
find
belief.
yourself, right? But when you find yourself within a group of people who are fear bonding, who are, let's say, talking politics or what have you, and you're like, oh my God, I don't know how they're doing this, or, I'm not even going to get into it. How do you stay in that neutral position of seeing them as perfect, and having their own experience and letting them just be and be perfect?
Oh, that like, okay. So yeah, I'm not at Manny level. Well, the story, and perhaps I've said this before, so stop me if I have, but it was I remember last Christmas, hanging out with some friends and I already had the belief that they were going to complain in a scenario. So my
Set
husband
that
said,
up.
yeah, which was, yeah, I created my I literally created my reality, right? And my husband said, why don't you just go for 45 minutes? And which is actually so in that moment, it was an empowering belief that time is real in that moment. the empowering belief that it was a temporary situation and I could control how much time I spent in physical reality. I love talking to you guys because I can talk the actual way that I think in my brain. So like the amount of physical reality time I spent with them was temporary, and I could leave the scenario and have a beautiful drive home enjoying the pine trees or whatnot. And so that was my solution to it.
I can answer that, Pam. I use humor. I will make a joke, and and this is what I say. This is my favorite line. You may be right. I'm not agreeing with them, but I don't continue the conversation. And then I change the subject. But, like most of my family is one thing and I'm another thing. But even that, I've tried to be a lot more neutral about it. And when people bring it up, and I have been interested in politics my whole life, a little bit, but I try not to talk about it or complain. But I just say things like, oh, well, you may be right. But in my mind, I'm thinking, what the hell's wrong with you? Or something. It's just a perspective. So recently I had the conversation with my son and he was like, well, really, they just have a different perspective than me. So why not? Like, they're right. So I just agree with them. I don't really have to go along with them. When I make that statement, I'm really just trying to gently change the conversation.
I just came up, actually, while listening to you, Tami, I just came up with the best response in being truthful and in being honest and everything, but at the same time, honoring their perspective, saying that is a unique perspective.
Yes,
That's all
I
I can
love that.
say.
I've
Yeah,
said that to people.
that's interesting.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
use that's interesting, and also you've given me a lot to think about, which kind of also is
Oh,
Oh, that sounds like a
Yeah.
legal statement there.
You're giving me a lot to
Yeah.
think about. Wow.
Let me get
Yeah.
back to you on that.
there
yes.
you go.
Yeah.
That's
But I don't say anything. I just let them babble. And I'm not into politics.
Yeah.
I can't stand it. And I just let them babble, and I figure that when they're done, I'll just move to another group and talk about something else.
Yeah, I
All right.
find
Let
that
them just
whenever,
peter
I mean,
out, basically, Manny. Sorry, JoAnn.
Yeah.
oh
S- s-
no, yeah.
Interesting.
And you don't have to respond, right?
Mm.
and
Right?
What if
You
they
can
ask
let
you a
them.
question? What if they ask you a question? Like, what do you think
So
about that?
so I'll tell them I haven't watched the news for 6 months and I have no
Mm,
idea what's going on, and which is true. And I haven't watched TV since we got back from the retreat.
that's awesome.
Yeah,
wow.
I
I have
found that
no interest.
when you do, like everyone's saying, basically you do, uh, you're not as judgmental, and you are saying, well, you may be right, and in their reality they are right. We're living in overlapping realities. In my reality, that doesn't affect me. In their reality, it is in their face. But it is true. It is right for them. But when you just kind of, like Manny said, you just kind of let them talk and say their thing, um, and then maybe follow up with, oh, that's interesting, or oh yeah, I don't know, I hadn't really heard much about that lately. And I think because the more neutral you are about it, it does just kind of peter out, like you said, because you're not attached to them being right or being wrong,
That's
and
it.
so it just kind of dissipates.
Right.
At least I've found it's like, oh wow, because the fear is, oh my gosh, they're going to keep asking me questions, make me, I'll feel like I have to respond. And it's like you said, Manny, you don't have to say anything, or just say something kind of neutral, or
Yeah.
they're not
And
going to be interested in it because you're not perpetuating their fear. So they're like,
and
oh,
you
okay, I'm done.
yeah.
I'll go over here and talk to this lady who looks like she's all riled up about whoever.
And you
So
have to
yeah, it
remember
just kind of goes away.
yeah, and you have to remember that the event is neutral, right?
Mm.
It's just how you take it.
Mhm.
Just like everything else, right?
I
You know, it could be positive or negative. It doesn't really matter.
Yeah,
I almost wonder
also that it's been
if
easier, sorry, Katie, it's been easier for me to not even care about getting into debates or arguments or talking points. Like I don't care. I don't care anymore. You want to sit there and tell me what I should think? That's okay. I don't you go right ahead. What were you
I
gonna
was
say,
gonna
Katie?
I was gonna say, what if we just started saying to them, they say whatever they're saying, and then we say everything is right. What?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it is. It is, Katie. That was a
Everything is
big
right
bomb.
bracelet.
Everything is
That's
right.
right. That's right. Yeah. Oh, that's funny. That's when they
Yeah,
say, "Oh, you've joined a cult. What is wrong with you? You live in a different reality." I get that. I'm
Yes,
like, "You live
yes,
in a
I
different
do. Thank
reality,"
you.
and I'm like, "I do. It's wonderful. You should join me." And then it's like,
totally on that. Yes.
Yeah.
like, come over. It's really nice over here.
So I've
But,
stopped
yeah,
I've stopped using the word cult because it was going down the rabbit hole. So
yeah,
yeah, I
exactly.
don't use that. But what's nice is I've been sharing all of my posts with my mother-in-law and with my sister-in-law out in Philly, and my son Sahil. I invited him to the forum, and he now sees the post. And I'm not sure if I was supposed to, but I figured, as you said, everything's right, so it doesn't really matter. But slowly, the kids are all seeing each one of my posts, and hopefully, it sparks something. And they start earlier than we did, right? Yeah.
True. That's true. I've been trying to figure out how to influence my kids, I guess. Not
Yeah.
necessarily to preach at them or, to shove anything down their throats, but just to be a shining example. My daughter,
Yeah.
more than anything, has been asking questions, which is fascinating. So,
What did she ask?
we had a discussion the other day about reincarnation of all things. She's fascinated with reincarnation and how I think I told you one time, Tammy, where I was talking to her about how we create our reality and how we set everything up before birth and how she chose me as her mom and chose dad as dad and so forth, and how technically, we all chose each other to be here and have these situations. And so a few days later, we had gotten into an argument. I mean, she's 9 for God's sakes. So, and I was like, "Why are you like this way?" or something like that. And she's like, "Because I chose to be." So it was hysterical that she's throwing that back at me.
Yeah.
But
My daughter does all the time. She's 32. It's like whatever if I say something that's a little negative occasionally, she'll say, "What? How dare you say that?" Or she'll say,
mm,
"You're creating your reality." I've used these words so much with my kids for years, that they just do it back. But my perspective about children is they're here to teach us.
oh yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So I've learned way more than I do teach my grandkids, and I've taught them to swim and lots of different things, but they've taught me more about love than anything. So, and
Well, that's what I say
I
about
heard,
my kids. I would not have understood unconditional love had it not been for them.
that's
So yeah,
right.
I agree with you,
Yeah.
Tammy. Go ahead, Tammy. What
Yeah.
were you gonna say?
Well, I know this was probably a couple of years ago. We were at my daughter's house, and my grandson he walked in, and my daughter was explaining something to him, and he looked at her and he said, "All right, Mom, I knew you before I was born, and I know everything about you." And so
Gosh.
it was like, oh, and he said, "I chose you." And he had never heard me explain it to him. And so, these truth bombs come out of the kids all the time. And
Wow,
yeah, they
that's
do.
crazy. Yeah, I will definitely say that my kids were were definitely my biggest lesson in what is unconditional love. Like I knew what unconditional love was, but putting it into context, how do you love someone completely, totally with no conditions whatsoever? you know, you can throw those words around and kind of understand it from if you have a puppy or something. But with kids, you know, it's like, yeah, I cannot even fathom a situation where I didn't love them, you know. And it it's interesting because, and Laurie can kind of understand this because she's a lawyer as well, but I've had the wonderful opportunity of being a criminal defense lawyer, and so being able to see people who have committed horrendous crimes, but still being able to see them as people, you know, over and beyond that particular act that they did, I think gives me a unique outlook to be able to say you are a person regardless of what you do or say or what have you. Now, taking that concept and applying it to every other person in my life is something I'm still working on.
Absolutely.
That's a lot of
Um,
the work.
one of
People.
the interesting one of the interesting things I think about beliefs is I think one of the things that Joshua is teaching us is that we're extending our beliefs and reality might be catching up to them. What do you guys think about that?
Say that again. Say that one more time.
We're extending our beliefs and then reality kind of catches up to them. So we see the perfection in something, right? And then the situation changes where it is actually perfect, right? Like, you know, like when we were kids, we, you know, that Get Smart thing where he had the shoe phone, right? And now we carry around phones in our pockets. Well, the belief was extended to where we could have phones in our pockets, and then we realized that reality, right? I'm just wondering, with our beliefs and changing them to empowering instead of limiting, how how that impacts, you know, our future, because we believe it can be true and then reality catches up. What do you guys think of that?
You know, it's fascinating, Laurie, that you
Yeah.
bring this up because I think that's absolutely true. I was listening to Bashar the other day, and it was a small clip, but he basically said the same thing, that as we change our beliefs, we change, and reality will eventually catch up. But if we're not patient enough, and what he said, patience is power. But if we're
Oh.
not patient enough to allow reality to catch up, then we run the risk of reverting back to that old belief because we don't think that reality has changed. But we need to allow it time to catch up to what we now believe. So yeah, that's my new phrase: is patience is power.
Joshua
Love
says it,
that.
Perception of Reality, the first Joshua book, and that right at the end of, I believe it's the end of the first chapter, I think the last paragraph says something to the effect of like, you know, because it's all about manifesting, la la la. It's like, I think it says manifesting is a combination of, I think, 5 things, but it's desire, focus, and one of the words is patience. And like that's all you need is basically what it says in life. And I sometimes think, oh, I'm not where I want to be, and then I remember that I'm living out the belief. I probably am living roughly the beliefs of about 2 years ago, let's say. So whatever I was hoping and dreaming for 2 years ago is where I am now. So whatever I hope and dream for now, I have to think that might be the truth in 2 years. And I think you're totally right about the patience thing, because I have a limiting belief, I guess, that I am impatient, an impatient woman. So we're,
Yeah, I
yeah.
think your reality matches you. And you know, time is an illusion. Like, so once you create something, it's created in this moment. You may not be visibly be able to see it, but if you get the belief that everyone in my reality loves me, supports me, is kind, and patient with me, or, you know, all these empowering beliefs, then eventually that's all you're going to see, because your focus, that's where your focus is going to go. So thoughts and your reality is going to be created in that way. I'll have to say that's, that was the biggest reality change shift that I saw after I started doing like the Joshua stuff, but I was really into a lot of other spiritual teachers too. And the people in your life, like the extreme negative people, kind of tend to fall away. But the people that are, that truly support you and love you, even if they're different from you, they tend to change. Some of their behaviors change. They seem kinder and more patient. I saw that. This was a really good example of this. I saw that when my aunt was struggling and I was helping my sister take care of her. Well, my sister is, still into fear-based, and I let go, I diminished my fears. And my sister would get 14 texts a day and emails and all kinds of stuff. And when I would go to visit my aunt, we would have lunch and she would tell me nice stories and then I would leave. Well, she wasn't calling me and texting me. My sister's fears were creating the constant need for help. And my love-based approach was creating more love. So, I see it in many ways, in many relationships, but that was just one example of it.
I think that's a really good point, especially when it comes to people, Tammy, because I have one employee in our company that everybody can't stand. He's just negative, just full of piss and vinegar, but he's rather nice and pretty funny when he comes to me and how he talks to me and what have you. I mean, I can see why everybody says that. I get that. But I'm also, just like you said, you're putting out there, what you're expecting, and he's delivering on that expectation. And Laurie, to your point, I also remember, because I don't know why this just came to mind, but I remember somewhere reading, and it was in the Joshua stuff, where be careful trying to believe something you want to believe and not truly believing it, because the universe will always be able to read your vibration. Your vibration will always tell the truth, basically. And so my question along that line then, Laurie, becomes, how do you cement in that belief within you so that it is something that you truly, honestly feel, so that the universe can work its magic and bring to you what you want it to bring?
Wow, that's a very faceted question. Well, I think that if you truly believe that it is right, whatever it happens to be, and you hold that vibration, then there's no wobble in it, right? And I think the wobble is where, obviously you're pointing out maybe you stretched it too far.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yep.
Something like that. So, I guess keeping it within the
What you can.
believable parameters, if you
Yeah,
will.
yeah. That's a
Yeah.
good point.
So that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, what comes to mind is the thought, I am rich. Well, not according to my bank account. But what can I believe, I deserve to be rich. Can I believe that, or whatever the next lower denominator is of that, You're right, trying to find that belief that actually resonates with you that you can then build upon.
Right.
Like, where are you rich in your life? And
Mhm.
and you're limiting it when we say rich, we're
Yeah.
usually thinking money. And
Yep.
so, but that's a limiting belief, even though we think, oh, I'd love to have money. Money is a good thing, but that's limiting abundance. There's so many other ways we can be abundant. So, and kind of going back to what is the feeling that
Mhm.
I am rich? What's the feeling that I want, or I feel when I think I'm rich or I want to be rich? What do I want? Do I feel like worthiness, security, loved, whatever the feeling is? And then else do I feel that feeling? And then it just kind of connects the dots. That's where I think that patience comes in, um, because we have a belief, but it doesn't it like you said, Tami, it's instantly manifested. It's there in the non-physical, it's there in the potential, but it's not in physical reality until we are a vibrational match to all aspects of it. And maybe we're only partially a vibrational match. And then once we kind of fill in the holes or connect the dots, whatever, then whether it's identifying the feeling that would make us feel, or like on the manifestation form, proving your limiting belief false by showing where the opposite is true. Okay, I don't feel rich, I'm feeling lack. Okay, well, where am I abundant? And then once you start proving your abundance, then you start connecting those dots. And then that's when it comes into physical reality. And I think sometimes we don't understand where
Hi,
where
Darryl.
we're not a match. We think we're thinking it's like a one-to-one thing, but there's so many factors that come in. And until we kind of really examine it, then that's where we come up with those limiting beliefs that we're like, oh, I didn't even realize I thought that. Okay, well, I'll work on that. And then poof, things
Yeah,
magically appear.
I think, we need to work on changing our beliefs, but we do it with experiences. I just had a really cool conversation with a girl, I guess about 6 months ago. She and I were having lunch, and I gave her a magic book, and it was about wealth. And, you're tuning into the frequency of wealth. And so you got to become a match to that. And that I guess that's why I love magic, is it can bypass the ego, because your ego is saying, well, the reality is that I've got $6,000 and $5,999 in bills, or blah blah blah, whatever it is. Here's the reality. So you're looking for evidence to support your current state of beliefs, and that's what your vibe is. So your vibration is, well, I'm not wealthy, I'm not rich. And then you speak those words out loud, which are commands to the universe. So you can shift that by focusing on tuning into the frequency of wealth. And you can explore things that wealthy people explore. What does it feel like to feel luxury? And you can soften your old beliefs, and then you can add in new beliefs. I'm worthy of going to nice vacations, and going to do this, or just, you just really have to soften it. But it is a frequency. Money is,
Mhm.
if you could get the idea that money is too damn easy to make, or something that you could believe in, you might could soften it. Because true wealth, even the word rich, might mean something negative to you. So you might have a belief that you need to kind of soften around the words you use. And you could say, well, there's 1,000 ways that money can come in if I tune into the vibration or the frequency of it. That's just how I see it. And if there are many ways and many beliefs about money, and we don't get a book that teaches us about any of this until now.
Yeah. First off, I want to know the book, Tami.
Yeah.
Tell us the
Oh,
book.
okay. It was it's Wealth Magic by Damon Brand. But she you know, magic has a way of overriding your beliefs. And that's why I like it, because I was able to bypass my ego mind and learn to accept that, you know, financial abundance isn't really a set number. Like for Darryl, it might be millions. For JoAnn, it could be 200,000, or, you know, I need a nice house and a car and a house, you know, I need all these things. But for Katie, it might be a mansion in Beverly Hills, you know, and millions, you know, Bill, we haven't even talked about billionaire. So your belief system around that is very important. And, you know, I don't know if anybody else wants to add.
Yeah, I think I think beliefs around money in and of itself is definitely one of those big ones that you can get immediate feedback on. You know, it's definitely one of those where you can hold a belief. It's actually, I was just thinking, it could be one of those that you could have fun with and testing it out. Maybe not to the detriment of getting like a $10,000 bill or anything, but, but you know.
Why not?
Well, I have a story where it was during the pandemic, and I had been paying on a car lease, and Toyota sent me mail. I opened the mail, and it said that I owed them $6 million. And it was obviously there was a, you know, there was a decimal problem, but I was like, I freaked out, and then I laughed, and then I thought, what if I owed somebody? What if I had that much money that I could owe someone 6 million? I was like, what would that feel like? Maybe I'd be irritated by the bill, but maybe it wouldn't be that big of a deal. Like, it was just because it was literal real mail from Toyota. I was like, should I sue them for like emotional? But
Emotional distress.
Yeah, but the real question I've been playing with is, we could keep talking about money, but the question was, is our whole life literally just made of beliefs?
Yeah.
Is that the bricks of our
Yes.
reality? Every
Yes.
home we've lived in,
Yes.
every relationship, that is crazy to me, because then because they're really in some weird way, they're concrete enough to become the concrete, or what feels concrete reality around
That
us.
sledgehammer out. Start
Yep.
going for it.
Exactly. Drop them all.
Go ahead, Darryl.
Can I
What's
frame
up,
it
Darryl?
in this way? Because I think the way to frame it in the bigger picture is that the true thing is that we are all original source and love, and we can manifest anything we want anytime. But when we come down to earth, we forget who we are, and then we get brainwashed with all of our upbringings and all, you know, and also there's the collective consciousness, meaning that whatever society has agreed upon is part of the recipe for here on earth. So once we incarnate on earth, we develop all these layers of belief throughout our upbringing, but then those are beliefs that aren't really true because we're really everything and all love, but because we've been brainwashed to think of those beliefs, then they help us, but they also limit us, because the true story is that we're unlimited. But then we have all these beliefs, so we got to kind of exist with them while we're here on earth. But here's what Bouchard and other people have said about beliefs is that you can have permission slips to take your beliefs to the next understanding. For example, and this is actually reflected in the question that I asked Joshua on Friday. He said that everything is belief, meaning, because I asked him, like, well, what about, like, we've heard about efficacy of crystals or tarot cards or muscle testing? You know, it's like, does that do any good? You know, is there really any good or purpose to that? And when he said that, well, it basically everything is belief. If you believe it's true, it's going to work, because everything is your consciousness projecting energy. So if you believe it, you're sending out that vibration that you believe it, and it will be true. So what Bouchard says is that you can't get from here to there sometimes without a permission slip, meaning that I can't think, oh, I'm going to be a billionaire tomorrow and that's going to happen. People on earth need a permission slip. So a permission slip could be, I'm going to buy a lotto ticket and that's going to be my permission slip. That's going to help bridge that gap to make it possible that I'm going to be a billionaire tomorrow. So you can do little tricks like permission slips to help undercut your belief to get you closer, because sometimes you can't get from here to there in just one jump. Unless you're Jesus or Buddha, they did it like that. But normally, us on Earth, we need little help and we need little permission slips. So that's what you can do, is you can give yourself little permission slips about how to build your beliefs to get you to where you want to get.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Experiences. I think experiences too. That's why if you really have to question your beliefs. I believe I'm not worthy of making millions of dollars. Then well, why not? I'm as worthy as anybody. But, I was raised a certain way, and I got in the box and I'm trying to get my way out. But, this is, I'm a middle-class woman. I always have. I've never been wealthy and I've never been extremely poor. So, these beliefs were laid in my box like concrete. And so I've got to just take the axe and chip away at them. And I think Darryl's right. I think you can use other things like, crystals and magic. And there's 1,000 ways you can change your beliefs. But experiences is one too. It's, when you get inspired to do something, are you doing it? I believe this will lead to this. Well, you don't really take inspirations because of money. You take inspirations for growth. But money is one of the most difficult ones for people to work on. And there again, we use that language. But for some people, money is just the easiest thing in the world.
Mm-hmm.
It really is, I mean, you can look at, there's athletes, there's actresses and actors. There's all kinds of people that make loads and loads and loads of money. And they just opened the floodgate somehow, didn't they, Katie? I remember your question. That was a cool question, by the way.
Oh, which one?
Where you were imagining having all these things and
Oh yeah. And then did you see what I wrote in the chat that day? I had this vision of, because I am curious. I'm like, why aspire, right?
Mm-hmm.
So especially if we're trying to just, if it's self-exploration, I don't understand like what this imaginary thing in the future is. And so the vision I had was that we are like a point, right? And then we have like, so it's almost like we live in the 3D, but our dreams and aspirations are 4-dimensional. So the image in my head was kind of a 2-dimensional, like I love Darryl's opinion on this also, that we are a point, and that imaginary thing in the future is this finish line, let's say, and we move along this, the idea is that we move along this line towards the finish line. But the real truth is that we're just this dot that is either vibrating, and we can move towards that in fear with effort and struggle, or through love and acceptance easily. So the idea was, I was like, we either like vibrate in fear, like we're quaking in fear, and we like slowly move towards the thing, or we're like this undulating, like ocean-like wave of love and acceptance moving towards the finish line. And all the while, the real truth is like, it's not one line. It's actually this sphere that is expanding on all sides. So so it's sort of like the idea of ascending, the idea of expanding towards this finish line. Who cares about the finish line, really? It's just this beautiful, can be beautiful or like terrifying expansion. And like, instead of and it's like 2D to 3D, as opposed to in our lives, it's the 3D to the 4D of expanding. I don't know. I'd love to hear your opinion.
It's like you can get the treasure at the end of the journey, but it's not the treasure you want, it's the journey. And in terms of you moving from this point to the future point of the thing, is that you can actually go, I want to be a billionaire tomorrow, and there is that parallel universe that you're a billionaire tomorrow, but it's a lot easier for your brain to comprehend that, oh, I gotta go out and work a couple of years, and then I gotta play a lot of you because you've been brainwashed to think, no, there's linear time, and I have to progress this way that humans progress. That's why you do it for the journey, but you can actually have that future picture tomorrow. It's just that you don't think you can. So you think that the only way you can do it is by following the typical way of working hard, or I'll buy a lotto ticket, or a big bucket of cash will appear before my doorstep. You got to think of things that are that could happen in this universe for it to happen. But really, you're so powerful that you can make it happen. You just don't know that you can. So you're going the typical route.
They're probably I'm like, there are billionaires who want to get married, probably.
Yeah.
And we already know in the non-physical how to instantly have things, and so we want to ride the ride, and climb the mountains and fall and roll down the hill and get back up, and because that's something. This is the only place we can do that. So we. And sometimes we will be the billionaire tomorrow, and then because it's fun, and then other times we want to go all the different ways to get there, and because that's fun. So,
I will say that if you're going to be a billionaire, it's because your soul has pre-planned that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? I mean, whatever happened is because your soul has already pre-planned it. So you can go out and try to buy all the lottos and work as hard, but if your soul has not pre-planned for you to be a billionaire, you're not going to be a billionaire. Well, vice versa. You could be the laziest, dumbest schmuck in the world, but if your soul has pre-planned you to be a billionaire, you're going to be a billionaire.
That's just because you're on vacation that you know that. Only that's true. I
think JoAnn, I was gonna say, I think JoAnn has a really good point when it comes to doing what you love and following your joy, because I had the same question, Katie, where I was like, what's the point of wanting anything anymore if I've got this pre-planned type thing? But then I realized that I'm here to have fun. I'm here to have desires in having fun, basically. But if I can let go of the control of what I think it should look like, then that opens me up to everything that could possibly happen that I can't even imagine. It's the unimaginable. I just realized that.
I'm going to also give you another aha, is that you are not only here to have fun, but you're also here to have pain and misery. Simply because in the non-physical, you can't.
Well, that's considered fun.
I know.
That's considered fun. That's what you signed up for. If it's happening, it's because that's what you signed up for.
Yeah.
That and that pain and misery is often the catalyst for the desire. Right. It's the carrot, the desire is just the carrot, just to, like you said, to get us to go forward and journey. And have the journey. But often it's born out of pain. But like you said, we can't have that in the non-physical. We can just go, want this, boom, there it is. It's like, no, we want to experience the misery so we can fully enjoy and explore the glory and the positive, that kind of, how do you know happy if you don't have sad? Like if you already are something, you need some comparison. And so this is the comparison to where we can really understand what love is. But,
I think the majority of folks who come to awakening, they've had a dark night of the soul. But I'm sure there's X percentage of the population who doesn't, that they could be happy, and that's what made them become awakened. Because everything is different for different people, and the different souls take different routes. But mostly, I hear that they go through the dark night of the soul. But I'm sure X percentage of the population, they just get it through happiness and happiness.
I think Kelly Smith told me that.
Intended.
Like Kelly Smith was like, you don't need pain to grow. I was like,
No,
apparently that's in my other life where I explore just happy, awake. Not doing it that way this time. I'm doing all the wrong things, all the wrong things.
I was gonna say that saying makes me think though, because I think it should be changed to you don't need to revel in pain in order to grow, because as Joshua says, technically we can find joy in even the most painful of moments. So I think it's a matter of perspective when what we think of as pain when it comes to us, what perspective we can take on it is what I would think. So yeah, I would change that to say we don't have to revel in the pain.
Yeah.
In
I
order
mean,
to
remember what they say? They said that everything is really neutral. Even pain
Yeah,
is
yeah.
neutral.
Right.
So, it's how you interpret it.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's a really good point.
Yeah.
So, well, I must go. You guys are more than welcome to stay on if you want,
think I'm
but
ready to go too. Great seeing everyone.
so
All
thank
right.
you.
Yeah, same here.
Lovely.
All right.
Have a
Bye,
wonderful
everyone.
fun.
week. All
Thank
right.
you. You too. Bye,
Bye,
everyone.
everyone.
Love you guys.
Bye.